Hello students, now we'll continue with our topic, that is the development of the cardiovascular system. Now as a specific learning objectives for this topic is you should be able to explain the development of the right and the left atrium, which was partially covered in the last lecture also. Then you should be able to explain the development of the atrial septum. And you should be able to explain the anomalies related to the development of the atrial septum. So this is just a brief revision of what we have studied. That this was a developing heart. These were the two horns, the left and the right horn. This one is the left horn, this one is the right horn. So there were common cardinal vein, there was the vitelline vein and the umbilical vein on both the sides, right? So with the time, there was development of left to right shunt. So because of the left to right shunt, the right horn was receiving more blood than the left horn. So the left horn loses its importance. So there was disappearance of the vitelline and the common cardinal veins, right, on the left side. The left umbilical vein was left, and on the right side there was disappearance of similarly. Later on there was disappearance of similar veins. So the right horn uh, remains big or it enlarges, whereas the left horn it loses its importance. So uh, the right horn incorporates into the right atrium and it will form the smooth part of the right atrium, whereas the left horn was left as the oblique vein of the left atrium and the coronary sinus. So this was the remnant of the left horn and this was the right horn, which finally gets incorporated into the right atrium and it will form the smooth part of the right atrium. And also these were the two venous valves, the right and the left venous valve, which will guard the opening of the sinus venosus. So cranially, these two fuse to form the septum spurium. So with as the left horn loses its importance, the septum primum and the left venous valve, it will get incorporated into the right atrium and the septum formation, whereas the right venous valve, the superior part gets obliterated and the inferior part will give rise to the valve of inferior vena cava and the valve of coronary sinus. So the right venous valve was divided by the two limbic bands, the superior and the inferior limbic bands. These were the subendocardial band, which was beneath the endocardium. Right? If you remember, the myocardium was secreting the myocardial jelly. So that forms the two subendocardial muscular bands, the superior and the inferior limbic bands. The part of the right uh, the right venous valve above the superior limbic band, it disappears, whereas the part between the superior and the inferior limbic band, it will form the opening or the valve of the inferior vena cava, and beneath the inferior limbic band, it will form the valve of the coronary sinus. Now the formation of the cardiac septa. So there are three basic concepts beneath how the cardiac septa are formed. So the major cardiac septa of the heart are formed between the 27th and 37th day of development, when the embryo grows in length from 5 millimeter to approximately 16 to 17 millimeters. So now one method by which a septum may be formed is involving the growth of the two actively growing masses towards each other. So in this way, septum primum is being formed, in which the lumen may be divided into two separate canals by two actively growing masses towards each other. Then there is a way by which the endocardial cushions are formed. Now, endocardial cushions are derived from the neural crest cells. So there are certain masses which is present at the atrioventricular canal and the interatrial at the atrioventricular canal. So a septum may also be formed by active growth of a single tissue mass that constitutes to expand until it reaches the opposite side of the lumen. Now the masses known as endocardial cushions develop in atrioventricular canals and the conotruncal region, that is the outflow tract. Now the septum formation by the expansion. So here the other manner in which a septum is formed does not involve endocardial cushion. So a narrow strip of the tissue in the wall of the atrium or ventricle should fail to grow. So the areas adjacent to it will expand rapidly such that a narrow ridge forms between the two expanding portions. So when growth of the expanding portion continues on either side of a narrow portion, two walls approach each other and they will eventually merge. So like this septum secundum is forming. Okay. So septum closure. So such a septum never completely divides the original lumen, but it leaves a narrow communicating canal between the two expanded sections. So it is usually closed secondarily by tissue contributed by neighboring proliferating tissues. Such a septum partially divides atria and ventricle. So this system is followed in septum secundum. Now the septum formation in the common atrium. So this, if you look at this figure, this is a common atrium. So what happens at the end of fourth week, a sickle-shaped crest grows from the roof of the common atrium into the lumen. That is an actively growing mass from the endocardium of the heart grows towards the atrioventricular canal. So this crest is first portion of the septum primum. So it has got two limbs, anterior and the posterior limb. As you can see, the two limbs of the septum extend towards the endocardial cushions. So these are the endocardial cushions. So there are right and these are the endocardial cushions. So right and the left endocardial cushions are there in the atrioventricular canal. This is the primitive ventricle and this one is the primitive atrium. So now the ostium, how the ostium primum and the secundum are being formed. So there is an opening between the lower rim of the septum primum and the endocardial cushions. This ostium is known as, or this opening is known as ostium primum. Now with further development, extensions of superior and inferior endocardial cushions. Uh, they grow along the edge of the septum primum, closing this septum this ostium primum. So there is endocardial cushion over here. So there will be active growth of this endocardial cushion towards the septum primum. So septum primum will completely obliterate the common atrial cavity. But now as it approaches towards the endocardial cushion, there is programmed cell death of the upper part of the septum primum. So what happens? The coalescence of these perforations will form a new foramen which is known as ostium secundum. Now this ensures free blood flow from right to left primitive atrium. So one thing you have to notice or keep in mind that shunting of blood throughout the development of the heart is very necessary for the growth of the two atria. So we will see why. Now the septum, there is another septum, that is septum secundum. So when the lumen of the right atrium expands, this is the right atrium, this is the left atrium. So it expands due to incorporation of the right horn of the sinus venosus. So a new crescent shaped fold appears. This blue one you can see, this one is septum secundum. So over here also you can see this one is the septum secundum. So this new fold, the septum secundum, it never forms a complete partition in the atrial cavity. So its anterior limb, it expands downward towards the septum and atrioventricular canal. So when the left venous valve and the septum spurium with the right side of the it fuses with the right side of septum secundum, the free concave edge of the septum secundum, it begins to overlap the ostium secundum. So earlier there was ostium primum beneath the septum primum, then it was obliterated completely. Then there was a formation of ostium secundum because of the coalescence of the clefts formed by the programmed cell death in the upper part of septum primum. Then was the origin of a crescentic shaped septum secundum because of the fusion of the right horn of sinus venosus into the right atrium. Then was the formation beneath, since it is a crescentic fold, so beneath it is also a foramen. This one is a foramen ovale. Okay. So the opening left by the septum secundum is now known as foramen ovale, and that was ostia secundum, which was in the septum primum. So now what happens? There is an oblique passage between the right and the left atria. So when the upper part of the septum primum, it gradually disappears, the remaining part, it becomes valve of foramen ovale, or you can say it is the limbus fossa ovalis. And the passage between the two atrial cavities, it consists of an obliquely elongated cleft through which blood shunts from right to the left atrium. Okay. So why there is an oblique passage? What's the use of this oblique passage? This arrangement, it allows the blood to flow from the right atrium to the left atrium, but not in the reverse direction. As the thin septum primum, it collapses against the stiff and unyielding septum secundum, effectively blocking blood flow back into the right atrium. So whenever there is, because the blood flow in the primitive part, it is from right to left, blood right से left atrium में जा रहा है. ठीक है? क्यों? Excuse me. क्योंकि अभी पल्मोनरी सर्कुलेशन स्टार्ट नहीं हुआ है, पल्मोनरी वेन्स अभी तक बनी नहीं है, एंड इसलिए उनका कनेक्शन भी नहीं हुआ है डेवलपिंग लंग से. सो व्हाट हैपेंस, तो और हमारा जो एट्रियम है वो तभी बनेगा व्हेन देयर इज अ ब्लड फ्लो, constant blood flow in them. So for a proper formation of the right and the left atrium, this shunting of blood is very necessary. What is propatency of foramen ovale? So after the birth, what happens? When the lung circulation starts, so pressure of the left atrium increases dramatically, and the valve of the oval foramen is pressed against the septum secundum, obliterating the oval foramen and separating the right and the left atria. So septum primum is a valve-like, and septum secundum is thick and unyielding. So this is movable. So when the blood flows from right to left, it allows the flow from right to left. But whenever there is a reverse flow, it will close this gap by moving like a valve. So in 20% of cases, fusion of septum primum and septum secundum, it is incomplete, and a narrow oblique cleft remains between the two atria, which allows a small probe. So that is why this condition is called propatency of oval foramen, and it does not allow any intracardiac shunting of the blood. So what is the need of this partial septation? I told you why there is not a complete septation in the fetal life. The shunting is required for the normal development and expansion of the left atrium and the left ventricle, and it permits oxygenated blood from the umbilicus to bypass the developing pulmonary system and enter into the systemic circulation. So it may fulfill the oxygen needs of the developing organs of the fetus. Now the formation of the pulmonary veins. So over here you can see this one is the left atrium. So while the primitive right atrium enlarges by incorporation of the right sinus horn, the primitive left atrium also, it is expanding because of the shunted blood which is coming over there. So initially a single embryonic pulmonary vein develops as an outgrowth of the posterior left atrial wall just to left of the septum प्राइमम, यहाँ पे सेप्टम प्राइमम का उसके जस्ट लेफ्ट में एक पल्मोनरी वेन आती है. Now this vein gains connection with the developing lung part. Now with further sprouting of this, that is the process of angiogenesis, the pulmonary vein and its branches are incorporated into the left atrium, forming a large smooth-walled part of the adult left atrium. Now, how left auricle is being formed? The atrium is the smooth walled part which is formed by the incorporation of the pulmonary veins. So, although initially one vein enters the left atrium, ultimately four pulmonary veins they will enter as branches and are incorporated into the expanded atrial wall, the left atrial wall. Now, in the fully developed heart, the original embryonic left atrium, it is represented by little more than the trabeculated atrial appendage, while the smooth-walled part originates from the pulmonary veins. So left atrium, it has got a smooth part and the trabeculated part. The trabeculated part will give rise to the left auricle, whereas the smooth part of the left auricle is formed by the absorption of the right and the left pulmonary veins. Similarly, the right auricle, on the right side, the original embryonic right atrium becomes the trabeculated part of the right atrial appendage, which contains the pectinate muscles, and the smooth part of the right atrium is formed by the right horn of the sinus venosus. Right horn of the sinus venosus. Now there are foramen secundum defect. It is caused by the excessive absorption of the septum primum and septum secundum or both. So this results in a condition in which there is an opening between the right and the left atria. Such defects are known as atrial septal defects. Some defects can be tolerated for a long time with clinical symptoms manifesting only as late as 30 years of age. It is most common clinically significant condition. It shows cardiomegaly, that is the enlargement of the heart due to enlargement of right atrium and right ventricle, then followed by the enlargement of left atrium and the left ventricle later on. Okay, normally, initially, left atrium and left ventricle are normal in size. And then there is increased pulmonary vascularity. Why? Because increased blood will go from right ventricle to the pulmonary artery to the lungs, and increased blood will return through the pulmonary veins. So the enlarged pulmonary arteries prevent the aorta from forming the normal left border of the heart. So such foramen secundum defects are known as atrial septal defects. Then there is a condition which is known as common atrium or common trilocular or biventricular. It is caused by complete failure of septum primum and septum secundum to develop. There is no development of primum and secundum. So common right and the left atrial cavities are there. So this result in condition which is in which there is formation of only one atrium. So it is characterized by severe pulmonary hypertension. So this is just a summary of how the septum is being formed. So firstly, there is a crescentic septum primum, which is formed by the growth of the inner wall of the common atria. This is crescent in shape. It has got two limbs, anterior and the posterior limb. There is a formation of uh, ostium primum. Then finally, it is growing towards the endocardial cushions. Before it merges with the endocardial cushion, there is a programmed cell death in its upper part, giving rise to ostium secundum. Then, because of the incorporation of the right venous valve into the right atrial cavity, there is formation of another crescentic fold, which is known as septum secundum. This is growing towards the endocardial cushion, and the foramen beneath its free edge is known as foramen ovale. So there is an formation of an oblique passage, and only after the birth this closes and this oblique cleft is closed, and there is a formation of limbus fossa ovalis contributed by septum primum, and uh, The atrial septum is mainly contributed by septum secundum. That's all. Thanks for listening. Now the next class will be on development of the ventricles.